today's Guardian, page 9, gives us details concerning the unfortunate incident that transpired at the Moruga Secondary School. And let me just say at the onset, I'm sure the school is indeed a fantastic one, like every other school. We'll have great students, great teachers and administration, but unfortunately sometimes these incidents, they put a particular shadow on the said institution. And it's one where they would have sprung into action because there is indeed now suspension letters for the students involved in the viral attack. Let's bring the president of TUTA into the conversation. Always a pleasure to have him. Of course, up to yesterday, I mentioned that I knew, when I saw this story, I said, you know what, Mr. Lumpkin will make himself available, and I didn't realize so soon. So I want to thank you for being spot on and giving us, at least we look forward to the perspective regarding this particular incident. Good to see you, President.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Williams. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
President, were you surprised when people were pushing back with your commendation? I know TUTA was one of the first to come out and commend the teacher for his act of bravery to step in, to intervene, to offer a blanket of protection to the student who was being victimized, who was being bullied by the two students. I'm sure you saw some of the comments, and people were actually pushing against your endorsement of said action. I'll let you start there, President Lumpkin.
Okay, thank you for that question. I've come to the realization in Trinidad and Tobago, it's a matter of damn if you do, damn if you don't. In the beginning of my tenure as president, when we had acts of violence and we had teachers intervening, educators, administrators, and we would have cautioned and would have advised our members to be cautious in intervening when it comes to these acts of violence, fights, etc., etc. We got pushback on that as well too. They're saying that as educators and persons of responsibility, we should be jumping into fights. But there are reasons we have been cautioning our members, because we have had instances where students would have accused the educators who intervene of inappropriate touching, of actually using violence themselves as well. But in this case, why we are commending the educator is that he not only tried to part the fight, but he was protecting the student who was being abused. And he himself wasn't using violence. He was actually shielding and attempting to de-escalate the situation as best as possible. Mind you, our teachers are not fully equipped and trained in de-escalation and in situations like that. It is a matter of our educators jumping into action because, you know, they care about the students, and this is like a reflex action. And in this case, we have to commend our member who was trying to ensure that the other student, he took some blows as well, and I can report that he is in good health, minor injuries, but he is in good health, and we commend him all the same.
President, based on contractual arrangements, your statute, whatever governs teachers, did he break any rule here? Did he go out of the norm in terms of what's required via the protocol for teachers in this regard?
In the first instance, if we take strictly his job description, that's not part of his job description. However, he would have attempted to, based upon his knowledge and experience, to attempt to have the students stop whatever they were doing, to not to escalate it even further by engaging in acts of violence as well. So as far as we have seen in the video thus far, he has not breached any sort of a procedure or so, but there really isn't an established procedure as such. Usually we have deans in secondary schools, we have school safety officers, and we have the school security officer. And let me say at this time, it has been confirmed by the Ministry of Education, and we have asked the relevant authorities to send out the memos to schools that the school security officers are not there just to secure the plant. They are also there in terms of the personnel on the plant as well too.
You know, President, it's so heartbreaking watching the footage. I know it's blurred, the students are underage, but many would have seen this in real time with all face exposed via social media. I didn't graduate to say 50, 60 years ago. I went to school in the 90s, and I could safely tell you with no fear of contradiction that if a fight was going on, and I would have witnessed many a fight, and Mr. Glasgow, may he rest in peace, Mr. King, may he rest in peace, whoever the teacher was, even if it's a female teacher, was to step into the room, all fight done. People take it down, they pat down. A matter of fact, I've seen men in the middle of a headlock turn into a hug because you don't want to get into trouble. I'm trying to figure out how do we strike a balance, because clearly it's a generation of, sad to say, we're looking at some real viper behavior here, but at the same time, they are developing minds and there could be greater issues at home. So how do we put down a stern hand, but also offer a room and a moment for rehabilitation and for a deeper reflection with these troubled youngsters?
And I'm glad you brought up that point. And one of the salient parts of your point is the fact that we as educators have been not having and some may say losing the respect of not only some of our students, but society at large. And in my time growing up as a youngster, the educator in schools were revered. You were looked at as someone who not only imparted knowledge, but had that wisdom. Persons from communities utilized educators when they had any sort of dispute. And so, you know, the position of an educator previously would have been one who was looked up to in the community. Now we are slowly seeing that respect has been, and respect for schools as well too, because we've seen desecration of the school. This has to be looked at very carefully. And we always say the school is a microcosm of the community and by extension, the country. If we are not intervening at the level of the community, of the families, etc., then we are going to get that permeating into our schools. So we must now have a way of getting back to the basic, the fundamental principles of what makes us a Trinidad and Tobago society. I always lament, because I am on the road quite often, and sometimes you see the level of what we say road hog and the level of discourtesy. So sometimes you give someone a blind to pass and so to cross, and you see the attitude as an entitlement. You know, like I am supposed to have done that for you. You know, and you know, we are losing all sense of what we were as the essence of Trinidad and Tobago. And the education system has a part to play. And we're going to get into SEA shortly. But when you are focusing on preparing students for a standardized test and for tests on the whole, certification, and we are not looking at the other aspects of education, then we're seeing the road that we are going down right now. But again, we have to get back, and everyone has a part to play. The government, the non-governmental organizations, faith-based organizations, civil society, tutor, we have a part to play as well too.
Yeah.
Even the trade unions as well, we have a part to play as well.
As you mentioned SCA, what's the prep like? What's the feedback you're getting from principals and administrators?
Well, principals, by and large, all our educators will do their best to ensure that their students have a safe environment in order to write. So we're looking at the day itself, which is on Thursday, but the preparation leading up to SCA. Mr. Williams, we could take an entire program to speak about SCA. One, speak about the whole process and the concept of SCA, because it is a placement examination transitioning from primary to secondary. And we have had concerns about that. And then we're looking at the day itself, where we have the invigilation of the examination. And we have been making representation to the Ministry of Education. And I know, thankfully, they have been listening at some point, but there are still some challenges. But what we want to see And please permit me to say to the nation's children, firstly, I wish you all the best. Tutor wishes you all the best at the SEA. And just know that this is not the end and end of it all. There is life after SEA. And so the reality of it is that not everyone will pass for their first choice, but they are being influenced by so many pressures, including the parents. Because of this pride that we have, my child must pass for a first choice. And if he or she doesn't pass for first choice, you have let down the family. You tarnished the family's name. I want to say to students that do not allow this to be a deterrent or a setback on your part. Many have failed the ASEA, but gone on to be successful.
Of course.
Parents, please do not allow this to be a judge on your student, your children.
President Lumpkin, as always, a sincere thanks. Let's probably touch base after the SEA exam to do a deeper dive into the exam itself and probably some recommendations as to what could be, hopefully down the road, our alternative replacement, because I know many definitely are looking in that direction. But that's a different talk for a different day. All the best, President. We'll touch base soon.
Thank you. Same to you. All the best to you and your viewers.
We take a pause. We come back. Much more after this.